This is my current solar setup, and it is a wreck, so I'm going to rearrange it. Here's some 12-volt batteries I'm not using. I think I'm going to create something as an auxiliary so I can keep the refrigerator running while I take all this down and reconfigure it. But these are my pretty large 24-volt batteries in parallel, and I have a 300 or 3000 watt grow watt inverter and charge controller all in one, and then a couple more charge controllers set up on a different solar array. It's really wild. Didn't really know fully what I was doing yet, so I am in the process of taking all of this down, and I'm going to attempt to fit it in this space right here. I've gotten one of the solar panel disconnects. I had a breaker right here, and you can see where the breaker was at a charge controller on the wall. It was a Victron 150, so 50 amp. There's the grow watt and the batteries. This is what I have so far on the layout. Battery disconnect right there, a large fuse for the big batteries, even though they have breakers and internal fuses on them, just a redundancy. Sorry about the focus. And then positive bus bar. This breaker will act as a switch for the 24 to 12 volt buck converter, and then I'll have a 12 volt fuse block distribution center for all my 12 volt lights in the house. And then I think maybe I'll put the grow watt here. I don't know if it's going to get too crowded, but some charge controllers will end up here, and then I'll run the PV here between these two 2x4s, and then have a removable wall so that the wires will be hidden. It's getting kind of crowded already, but I like the layout. It's going to be a lot cleaner. The wire runs are going to be much shorter. This switch will be for an individual 12 volt appliance that I won't need to have on all the time. So that's going to be my 18650 battery tester. So I won't be testing batteries all the time, but I'll set up on the workbench and have recycling batteries, so I'll be able to come in here, flip that on when I want to test the batteries, and then just flip it off. And then also I'm going to switch the fridge because it'll run off of 12 and 24 volt. I'm going to run the fridge directly from 24 volt, and then all my 12 volt appliances that we never run during the nighttime, I'm going to use this breaker as a switch. So I'll be able to save some of the battery power, especially during the winter when we don't get as much solar. I think it's going to be a lot more efficient this way. And it's not hard to beat this rat nest of experimentation. I learned a lot more, so I'm really excited to upgrade and just organize and just in general make this a better system for us. Here's what I've come up with. I'm starting to assemble some of the components on the back wall. I want to get all those wires connecting each device and all the breakers and things like that before I even try to wire up the batteries. So most of the stuff that's on this wall will get moved to here or that side wall. Where the batteries are going to go, I originally thought I was going to rotate them and lay them flat and put them in there like two separate shelves. But I wanted to keep this wire length and everything, and it's on a piece of plywood that has wheels, so I built a wall. I'm just going to slide it back there, and then I took some pallet wood and built that back wall so that the batteries will be isolated a little bit more. But if I ever need to do any maintenance, the battery disconnect will be here. Switch that off, and then I'll be able to roll the batteries out like they are now and work on them. Also took some pallet wood. This is mostly oak, and finished up this wall. I think this is going to be a nice little working area. I've finally gotten it set up to where it's running a couple of lights. Here's one in this room, and it's running the refrigerator. So I shorten this up and want to finalize a box and have a plexiglass shelf over the top of this, just so if I'm working on anything up here, a screw or something falls, it doesn't fall on the terminal. Any tools, it's going to be really difficult to connect those two accidentally, those two terminals, because they have covers on them and things like that. But just as an added peace of mind, some sort of plexiglass. I don't want to do wood because I still want to be able to see the batteries because they have little light indicators and you can see how dirty it is. But I want to be able to see, come in here and know, okay, like an animal has made a nest or something like that, something obvious. So I like keeping everything really visual. With that said, there's no cover on the negative bus bar or the positive bus bar. There's also no cover on the 12-volt distribution block. But this is the setup so far. A few things I'd like to change is technically this buck converter is supposed to have a breaker here on the negative as well as the positive. In the positive, I know for a fact it's too large of a breaker that it wouldn't actually protect that device. It's only being used as a switch right now. Also, the positive 12-volt coming off of the buck converter is too small. That's just some 10-gauge PV wire that I had. It should be a little larger, but the amps that I'm running on this 12-volt block just to start and try it out, that size wire is not going to be an issue. But once I start filling up that distribution block, I will add a larger gauge wire to the positive there, possibly put a appropriate size breaker on the negative, and I'll shorten the solar panel wire coming into the Victron charge controller. And then also this, I'm going to call it a wireway, even though it's not a metal encasing. There's just a single breaker on the positive. I'd like to get a much larger breaker, a double pole breaker that will break the negative and the positive wire. And then it'd be nice to have one single breaker that will have multiple charge controllers or multiple solar panel arrays coming in. And that way I can still do some of my experimentation. But this is the bare bones setup. I'm really liking how clean it's looking. And also, I've lifted some of these away from the wall just because this was so bulky. Originally I added the block for the breaker just so that wire wouldn't have to bend. But then I kind of liked the idea of keeping these wires off of the board because they do have to cross over each other. So my assumption is it'll dissipate heat, but I've oversized a lot of these wires. I don't think that's really going to be an issue. And then this is just a little ledge as I'm working on this, so no wire is going to hit the positive of that. All this is kind of just a little bit over paranoia, but I don't know, it's what makes me feel comfortable, and it's my system. So if you have any suggestions of something I could do better that's relatively affordable and reasonable with my limited skill set on building, you can see it's not the cleanest, but that's what I have to work with. All this is being built with pallet wood and like the switches and stuff. This is the switch for the light in here that was pulled off of a appliance that was broken.